Do like my virtual lakeshore background.
Yes.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. We are live on Facebook or wherever you are receiving this video. I'm Jennifer Norris-Hale, and I am joined by Melissa Hall and Erin Ward. Um, Melissa, do you want to do an introduction?
Absolutely. I was going to try to do it on my end, but I'll just wait a sec. Hello, world. So, yes, I'm Melissa. Super excited to be here and just share a little bit more about what we're doing locally here in Fort Wayne, Allen County, and beyond. I am a licensed social worker, master level social worker. I currently work as a therapist with Courageous Healing. I am a postpartum doula. I am very active locally with our NAACP as an activist. I'm a mama of four, and I'm also creating doula work around our Black and Brown mamas here in Allen County who have horrific maternal and infant mortality rates that we are working with to help from both a mental, emotional, and physical standpoint to help start to correct the trauma, and start to build on the resiliency that is active in every mom and woman that we see and meet on a daily basis. So I am very thrilled to be here.
Absolutely. Well, everyone is so excited to have you. You are amazing, and just an honor to kind of to roll out this program with you. We are
Yes.
also joined by Erin Ward from Northwestern University, and we will kind of share a little bit of background about how Courageous Healing and Mission Motherhood came to be and how we got implemented mothers and babies, and then hear a little bit more about how mothers and babies came to be, the program itself. So with Mission Motherhood, it's just been an honor to collaborate with Courageous Healing. A lot of what we try to do is try to identify gaps in the community where there's opportunities to bring in what's working in other communities and be able to provide that as an access point to mothers who may not may not have that access, and remove all different types of barriers. So when Melissa and I had the opportunity to collaborate, it was kind of a no-brainer to bring in mothers and babies. It's an evidence-based program. And again, it has success rates in other communities in the US, maybe the world. I know Erin will tell us. And so we have just completed our first cohort with some wonderful mothers. And for somebody who doesn't have a clinical background, this program is oriented towards people being able to educate mothers and guide mothers and walk alongside mothers, whether they have a background or whether they do not specifically. So, my experience with the program just initially has been wonderful. Just walking alongside mothers, having kind of a guardrail to guide them, but then also being joined by Melissa, who is just phenomenal and therapist as a therapist as well. So we can share your experience with the program too.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things about it was that, like what Jennifer was saying, there is a guardrail. So you have your participant manual, and then you have the manual that if you are one of the guides going helping women through this, then you have this background that you can fall back on. Or I should say this backdrop that you can fall back on to help direct and orient you, and so that everyone's constantly on the same page. So you're constantly checking in, you're constantly reorienting, because we're doing it on Zoom right now to make sure everyone's staying safe and healthy, especially for our most vulnerable populations. So we're able to do it and stay connected and on task the entire time. So it's like, hey, we're on page such and such, and you can make sure that the mamas are on that page, especially we have kids, life is happening. You're trying to, like, engage, but life is happening behind you. And so it's just this really beautiful way to have what feels like a village component to it. So you're never left on your own, like, wait, what page did they say? Where are they at right now? And it's really beautiful because you can also add your insight, like Jennifer was saying. I got to explain why this was evidence-based when we were going through, a different part of, whatever session you were in. And so I got to give background, but also then Jennifer was able to fall right back into step when it was her turn to start to do some of the teaching, and you just never missed a beat. So you can make it as unique and as coherent. So no matter where you're at, you're going to have that same experience, no matter who's teaching it, because you have that solid ground on which to walk on. So I absolutely felt like it was a beautiful fit and will continue to be a beautiful fit for mothers. No matter your age, no matter how many kids you've had, there was something that every mother took away, including myself.
Absolutely. And one of the awesome things about it too is there is a group session and there is an individual session. And so, we've kind of developed the group session and we'll start kind of developing the individual piece as well. But there's so many components that fall nicely into meeting a mother wherever she's at. So, Erin, why don't you just take it away? Why don't you tell us a little bit more?
Sure. And I'm happy to share more about background on the Mothers and Babies intervention, as well as just wanting to hear a little bit more about what your experience was like and the feedback from the moms that were in your first group cohort. So just a little background on Mothers and Babies. It's a cognitive behavioral therapy based model that is also grounded in attachment theory. So while we focus on our mood and our mental health within this perinatal period, it's always coming back to how can this benefit your attachment and teaching and bonding with your baby. The framing of the intervention, I think, is really helpful because we don't present it as a postpartum depression prevention intervention. It's really packaged and delivered as a stress reduction intervention for pregnant and parenting moms, dads, families, to really just normalize the fact that we all have stress in our lives. We have stressors in our lives, some of which we don't have a lot of control over, but what we can do is we can take more control over our responses to stress, so that we're able to better balance in our mood each day, to be having those positive, engaging experiences with baby once baby arrives, and also to help manage that environment during pregnancy and keep stress under control as well. And Melissa and Jennifer, as I go on, I could go on and on. Please interrupt with questions or your own observations. So it was originally developed as a group intervention, and it's been tested and implemented in a lot of different types of settings. So some clinical mental health settings, a lot of home visiting and early childhood settings. And we're also starting to see this working really well in other places where pregnant and parenting families access services. So prenatal care, pediatrics, WIC clinics, county health departments. One of the reasons it works so well in so many different types of systems, and I know that Jennifer and Melissa both touched on this, is that we've really tried to develop the facilitator manuals to be easily implemented by providers that may not have a formal mental health background. So you don't have to be a psychologist or a clinical social worker to implement this, because we've really tried to make it user-friendly both for the providers and for the clients. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the individual modality. So we see that working really well in the home visiting model, where there's already, whether it's nurse home visiting or a community-based organization, there's already that weekly or biweekly engagement to check on how mom is doing during her pregnancy and postpartum, and to do those developmental follow-ups and parenting coaching. They're already working closely with that family and have developed that relationship. And so layering in the Mothers and Babies intervention content alongside that works as a really great enhancement when you're working with folks who do have, who who may be experiencing stress or depression, or may have a lot of risk factors going on, or just, maybe there aren't a lot of mental health resources in the community to refer to. There can be a long waiting list, or there can be, other barriers like health insurance, or even just the ability to prioritize one's mental health and follow through on those referrals when you may already be parenting and working and so forth. What else do you want me to talk about?
One of the things that I found really helpful was the vision, or well, I guess our cohort found helpful was the visualizations. So there is
Mhm.
a visualization piece of it where one mom chooses, mindfully chooses to kind of be positive, and one mom is kind of in this more negative mindset. And you can kind of see how she goes throughout the day and how those kind of build on each other. And again, it was kind of like being able to provide language to mothers and women who might not have that the type of language for voicing their needs and like their tool belt at this time,
Mhm.
because it is all about baby. Or if you do this prenatally, or if you do this postpartum, it's still, you still need to kind of have that, be able to advocate for yourself and understand yourself and
Mhm.
where you're at in the moment. And I thought it kind of really helped guide that piece for moms and that understanding.
Yeah, there was a lot of visuals for the participants.
Mhm.
And I love that because you don't know what type of learner you're working with. So we do a lot of auditory based teaching, just in America, period. You're at your teacher is talking to you about something. Maybe you have something visual, but a lot of time we're just taught to learn auditory, and not all of us are auditory learners. And so there's
Mhm.
this kinesthetic piece because you're writing, you're visually seeing charts and diagrams. And so I just thought it was beautiful. It was very inclusive, it felt, for no matter what type of learner you were. Yes, we were talking. Yes, you could be writing and, making notes on the side. And you got to visually see one mom's, like Jennifer was saying, how she woke up and approached her day. And then another mom, how she woke up and approached her day as well. And so being inclusive, not knowing what reading level each mother was on, no matter where you're at, you still could find a way to learn and to retain information moving on throughout your motherhood. And so that felt really, really, really empowering, being one of the facilitators for this first cohort in Fort Wayne.
Yeah. So how did the Mothers and Babies program like originate?
Uh, yeah,
Maybe.
sure. Going back in time to the mid 2000s, it was originally developed by Ricardo Munoz, who's kind of a bigwig in the cognitive behavioral world out in the San Francisco Bay Area. And that was originally developed as a depression management group for in an inpatient and outpatient clinical setting. So really trying to work with folks who maybe had some chronic depression issues. But he really grounded his work in working with the Latinx community. And then he brought on board a postdoc, Mimi Lay, who's now at George Washington University. And she said, you know what, this is wonderful. I want to really revamp this and tailor it for perinatal mental health because there's nothing really out there that specifically targets the experiences that we have during pregnancy and postpartum. And so that's really how Mothers and Babies grew. And as I mentioned, it started as a group intervention. I think it was originally 12 sessions, then they cut it back to 8 sessions. I think what you worked with was a 6-session model. What we've learned as we go along is sometimes we have to figure out a way to deliver these interventions pretty rapidly because you don't know how long you'll have that connection with a client or a family.
Mm-hmm.
And through that process, when we started engaging in, I guess, non-mental health settings, sort of going outside of traditional mental health settings and working with the home visitation population, that's when folks said, this is really great, but I deliver all my services one-on-one in the home. And that was really the impetus for adapting it for one-on-one delivery as well. At this point, we've also got a colleague who's developed an online version of Mothers and Babies that's kind of a self-guided process. We've got a lot of other innovations we're working on to really maximize the utility and the reach. So we've started embedding text messaging in between sessions, because whenever you're practicing new skills in your life, you need those reminders sometimes to check in with yourself. What's my mood like? Do I need to, if I notice that my stress is creeping up or my mood is creeping down, which one of my tools can I use right now? Shall I call a friend, go for a walk, take a shower without kids running in and out of the bathroom? What can give me like a few minutes to just recenter and rebalance? We've also been working on a Fathers and Babies intervention, which is coming out very soon, so that we're able to really work on the whole family well-being and to reach, dads who are parenting on their own.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. When did you say that's going to be rolling out?
Very, very soon. We are wrapping up revisions this month, having it translated into Spanish next month. And so those things will be coming out soon too. And one more plug, we spent the year working with a really wonderful group in South Dakota, developing a cultural adaptation for use in tribal communities, where we've really added in, more culturally appropriate examples and images and language, as well as adding in a whole other spiritual component and traditional well-being practices. So I think one of the things that makes this such a great fit for so many settings is that it has those core concepts that can be adapted. And we really encourage people not to read directly from the scripts off the page when they're implementing, but to speak to your audience and use examples that will resonate with them, and also use your own voice.
Yeah. Well, just to be completely honest, we did a lot of that for, by we, I mean me, I'll just throw myself under the bus. I don't know, Jennifer, if I did one session where I didn't add a cultural component to it, just to help make it relevant to the moms that we were interacting with, and to help them see their own stories and find their heritage while they were learning about ways in which to implement resiliency, to take back some of the power and authority that we give away as women and as mamas, because I do a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy as well, and really taking captive those thoughts and understanding the power that you have in each moment, both as a mother and as a teacher to your children. We had some mamas who had older kids and they were like, oh, those first 3 years are gone. And we were like, no. The brain is elastic. So we talked about that neuroplasticity of the brain. And so just like constantly empowering the moms through every step, but adding that very relevant cultural context as well, to really help it hit home where it needed to.
I definitely remember we went over one time talking about, well, what was your experience like, and what was your experience like, and just kind of really trying to normalize and understand each other's experience as mothers, from wherever we were at. So it has the ability as well to open up conversations and help people open up too, who might not normally have had that opportunity as well. One of the things too that I love about the program, or at least referring the program, is you kind of touched on it earlier, Erin, was that a lot of our therapists, especially where we're at now, are out like 2 to 3 months before they see new patients. So a program like this can be helpful and instrumental in being that supplemental piece before someone could actually see a therapist. And the fact that it is week after week, the same time, same place, helps build consistency as well. So it's been so cool to kind of see this take shape, but also to hear more about what's going on with it as well, and that it's evolving. And so we're excited to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought that up, Jennifer. It's something that we've actually intentionally looked at in our research is, if someone participates in the Mothers and Babies course, whether it's in a group setting or one-on-one, are they more likely to connect with additional mental health services in the future? So, and I see that as a positive. If you can recognize, okay, I'm not doing great right now. And 6 months ago, I felt really nervous about calling the community health center or meeting a therapist and telling them all my stuff. But having had this positive experience in a supportive environment with my provider or in this group with other moms, I found that it's not so scary, and it was actually pretty useful. And we've seen some significant evidence that it does work as a really good bridge or stepping stone for folks who need to do additional work. If you need to do some more one-on-one therapy focused on trauma experiences, for example, that's not necessarily, the Mothers and Babies group isn't necessarily the best place for that work, but it can certainly set someone up with some coping skills to manage anxiety and depression that might be connected with other experiences, and also just encourage that continuing that process with other supports.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's been our experience as well. So we're super blessed that we're able to provide that to our moms, especially like just linking them directly to services here in Fort Wayne. Because we do have therapists who specialize in maternal health, who are trauma informed. And it's not like you have to start all over then. And so, yeah, it's been a beautiful, beautiful like segue into longer term care as well, for our mental health. Because I'm a therapist who has a therapist. So I believe that all of us, I believe all of us can benefit from therapy, having someone to externally process with in a safe space, where it's confidential. You're not judged on what you thought or, what you've experienced. You're just working towards a brighter, healthier future for yourself and for your family. Because a healthier mama makes for a healthier family as well, which makes for a healthier society, which makes for a healthier nation. So it's just all inclusive. It's all inclusive.
It really is. I'm curious to know, in your group, did you have kind of a mix of pregnant women, moms with first babies, moms with other kids already?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of our mamas had kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
They were within 3 years postpartum though. But yeah, I don't think we had any first time mamas in our first group.
Not the first. And we have opened it up. So we will, I guess I'll do our little plug.
Yeah, time to plug. What are your next steps?
So with Courageous Healing and Mission Motherhood, we have this program called Mamas, and it is to focus on these types of evidence-based therapies for prenatal and for postpartum. So we are trying to keep the prenatal group together and postpartum groups together. This first cohort happened to be part of the postpartum group, but we are opening our next cohorts within May.
Mm-hmm.
For both prenatal and postpartum. And again, ours groups go up to 3 years. So we want to provide access to moms at any point. We could go up to 21 years old, but I don't think there's a program for that yet. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you should put that on your research.
Yes. 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 So mamas up postpartum up to 3 years, and then prenatally, and then no matter where you're at in your motherhood journey. So if you've had 8 kids, or this is your second or your first, you have a place within our groups, wherever you find yourself. in your pregnancy or postpartum care.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we are just honored to be able to provide mothers and babies to our community. We will definitely keep you posted as it grows and develops. For all organizations who are working with mothers who are prenatal and postpartum up to 3 years, or any mother that you see struggling, we are here to help them as a group, individually, and it's really thanks to this program. So we really appreciate your time today, Erin, and your time to develop all of this for
Yes.
our communities and our mamas. So we appreciate that.
Well, I've been happy to talk with you and to hear how well it's gone in your first pass, and that you're ready to ramp up another group real soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are so honored. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I think one of the things I love as well is that the programming isn't exclusive. You don't have to like check these special boxes or be a part of this specific organization. I think that Mothers and Babies, your programming has made it very accessible, which is huge. It's one thing to have all these resources, but if you don't have access to it, then it's not doing anyone any good. And the accessibility has been a huge component to the success. It sounds like nationwide. So thank you for that as well, because that's huge. It's huge to have the tools and then be providing them on such a broad scale.
Absolutely. Well, we will definitely be keeping you posted, and thank you everybody for tuning in. And if you want more information, we will provide some links in the comments afterwards. But appreciate your time, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.